friends through football have reconnected with the goal of growing a business together. The ability to block out distractions is a must for pitchers, and something Cole Jefferson has a unique ability to do. And the small town sports superstar, a Texas tradition like no other, and there's one in the making in Central Texas. All those stories and much more coming up on Beyond the Sport. Here we go, it's Beyond the Sport, and I am Travis Raychek. Ricky Williams' football journey, it is very well documented, from hoisting the Heisman Trophy to being one of the top running backs in the NFL. His struggles are just as well known after being suspended for using cannabis. Williams is now using those struggles to grow his new venture. Our Victor Jaymes has more on how a special partnership is helping foster that growth.
And just look straight into the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Silly first question, but can you say and spell your first and last name for us?
My legal name or?
What you're known by.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Ricky Williams, RICKYWILLIAMS.
My name is Chris Ball, CHRISBALL.
No relation to the Ball family of Chino Hills.
No relation to the Ball families of Chino Hills. Growing up as a young football player, Ricky Williams was somebody that I idolized. It was somebody that I looked at and was like, wow.
Williams breaks a hole. Williams, hello record book. Ricky Williams runs to the Hall of Fame, cuts back. Ricky Williams, touchdown!
Williams tries it wide. Ricky Williams, touchdown, Texas. So you expect the run, and you get it with Ricky Williams. Up the middle of the field. Ricky Williams, touchdown, Texas.
I can't let you down.
People say football is the ultimate team game. Each of us develop our own abilities from our own experiences in life, and we show up on a team to contribute everything we've learned to some goal that we all share.
What's about to come down? Or we're cutting down 7, right?
We're cutting down.
What comes down next?
And I feel like Chris has had his varied experiences, and a lot of them had to do with football. I've had my experiences, and we both kind of come to the same conclusion, and now we're putting like minds together to see if we can amplify what this message is.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, brothers, come on. Come on into the Laura Charles room right here.
Lord Charles, huh?
Laura Charles.
Yeah.
Let's go see Lady
good.
Laura. My first year of going out there and playing football, I think I was 8 years old. I had passion, I had athletic ability, but I didn't know the X's and the O's. Well, it was the same thing for cannabis. I had the location, I had the plants, but I didn't really know the X's and O's, so it took me about a year of growing and failing, and all of those failures wind up equaling up to success.
It smells so good in here, right?
Yeah, man. I love it. This girl's been with us for about 4 years.
Yeah.
So she's definitely a fan favorite. I'll tell you one thing, man, I'll never forget is when me and Rick finally did reconnect at Hall of Flowers this past year, first thing he said to me was, yo, man, I'm a fan. And it's crazy because that was the first thing I said to him 10 years ago when I'm like, yo, man, I'm a fan.
We both share a mutual friend, rest in peace, D. Russ. Daryl Russell grew up in San Diego, went to USC, played in the NFL, and had his own issues in the NFL drug program, and unfortunately, died early in a car accident.
I believe our first interaction through my big brother Daryl Russell, rest in peace. There was purpose in that way back then.
And Chris and I have always connected because we were both really close to D. Russ, and we saw how being in the NFL's drug program really hurt him and really affected his life in a negative way.
I believe my journey and his journey was very deliberate, and I believe it led us our paths to cross again for this moment.
I bumped into Chris. It was like old friends meeting, and we met back up and started sharing our past and how we got here, and realized we have so much in common, and we have the same goal, so let's see what we can do together.
All the nutrients is already in there. So the plant kind of takes what it needs when it needs it, you know? You know, my journey with cannabis obviously started with my football career.
We are off.
When I got to the CFL, this is where I first saw cannabis from seed to harvest. And that's when I fell in love, you know, with the process and with the plant. It was my trafficking of the plant back here to the United States is how I wind up catching my felony, catching my indictment in 2010. So
to me, the way I look at it is all of the struggles are what define our journey. Like in all the movies and the myths, when the hero overcomes the struggle, they've learned something about themselves. And that piece of knowledge is what they need to know where to go next and to keep moving forward.
Plant life is pretty much the same. You know, when they're young and you're in your year 1 and year 2, she's thriving. They're just kicking out super weight, kicking out super expression. To see his career get taken away from him because he indulged in a plant that was actually good for him, it touches me in a way that makes me want to help, that makes me want to be involved with him.
When I left the NFL, when the struggles really started, I just kept overcoming them and seeing where they led me next, and they led me here, starting my own brand in Southern California.
For my cannabis to be able to move him the way that it does, and for him to want to collaborate with me, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us to come together and kind of tell our stories about how sports and cannabis has kind of led our lives up until this point.
Like you said, I was already there, and now it's kind of flipped because I'm stepping into this space. And again, I look around and I see what Chris is doing, and like, it's impressive. It's impressive. When I left the NFL and the stigma was all over me, I had a question I had to answer. I say, do I wrestle this stigma, or do I like live the life that I know I can live, and I change it? I create a different story. And so where the story was that cannabis ruined my life, I said, I'm gonna try to live in a way where I see that cannabis saved my life.
Just depends on the variety. Some varieties like to go straight up, you know, so we gotta kind of keep forcing them to go out, you know?
You know, as I'm walking around here and I see on Chris's packaging, you know, cultivating the culture. And this is what I'm saying. It's about building, growing a culture, not defending against, you know, the old regime. But it's about creating a culture that's about greatness and taking care of each other and high quality, pun intended.
The bond of shared interest brought these two together. Now they have to make the business work. Coming up next week, part 2 of this story explores what's being put in as far as the work goes to make the main mission happen and what ultimately they want out of this venture.
Maybe 5, 10 out of 500 schools have been saved.
Good, Zaria! So to me, every day walking on the court, I have to know I have to be impactful.
We have other black tennis players coming up behind us, and it just continues to grow.
And I was the only black golfer there. If I don't do this, then who else is out here trying to do it?
What's good, fam? Thanks for joining us on this very special edition of Beyond the Sport, where the B stands for Black. I am Victor Jaymes, and we are on the east side at historic Downs Fields, where legends like Willie Wells once hit the diamond. Before the UIL, we had our own league, a league that's largely still looking for recognition. One man is doing his part to make sure they have their moment in the sun. What will our legacy be? How will we be remembered? These are the questions that keep us up at night. Rob Brown is more worried about keeping the memory of others alive.
I guess it didn't start as a passion, but being an athlete, if you're gonna do something, an athlete tries to do his best. He or she tries to do their best.
Brown is a product of the Prairie View Interscholastic League. The PVIL governed black high school student athletes during segregation, and they thrived. We all know the Westlakes, North Shores, and Carrolls. Blacks had Port Arthur Lincoln, L.C. Anderson, and San Antonio Wheatley.
At one time, Port Arthur Lincoln was the most feared team in the South.
Brown played and coached football in the PVIL, enduring racism in a time where the divide between two Americas couldn't have been further apart.
We couldn't stop any of the white restaurants. We had to go to the side window and eat. We could only play in stadiums where the whites were not playing. Instead of playing on a Friday night, we played maybe Thursday night, and then we had to get up and what? Go to school.
As a coach during that time, did you feel a sense of like I have to protect them from the outside world a little bit?
And that came with the job. And we always felt that way, no matter what happened.
Texas schools did not fully integrate until 1971. Now, black students were able to share these spaces, but something was lost in the promises of equal opportunity.
I feel really bad because at the time of integration, it appears that there was no one to take the bull by the horns and save those schools. Save the trophies, save the clippings, the jackets.
That is Brown's current mission as leader of the PVIL Coaches Association, to make sure so many forgotten legacies have their day in the sun. Since he took over in 2004, the nonprofit began recognizing athletes after only giving coaches their shine at first.
We've been able to recognize the older generation at a time that they need recognition. We have 60, 65, 70, 80-year-olders that are crying like a baby because they got a plaque. They got somebody recognize them. And I've learned through experience. The older you get, the more you value your recognition.
All of these priceless reminders were saved after many of the black schools were torn down, sometimes from dumpsters. And are being stored at Brown's home in Houston. He's currently fighting to have a black sports museum for these donated items, so they can be on display for everyone to see. So kids can see their legacy and the shoulders they stand on.
If you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. The people that donated them realize that it's important for the younger generation to know that, hey, you stood on our backs. And if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't be where you are now. You didn't do what you're doing by yourself. We had to fight the battle. And the fight continues to get permanent housing for these items.
How are you? Welcome into Beyond the Sport. I'm Travis Raychek. You know, sports is a community, whether it's the team or fans. It takes a village to have success and persevere through adversity. One Austin teen is getting a first-hand look at that. Our Victor Jaymes shows us how he and his family are receiving the support they need as they battle a rare disease.
Isaac Jacobs is like most high school seniors, heading to school with a smile on his face, excited for what the future holds.
Good morning.
What's that? We talk a lot about his dreams and his plans for his future. Definitely good kid. Everybody knows him in the school and they talk to him.
There is one thing, however, that sets him apart.
He's got all kinds of interests, but mainly focused on soccer, which has been like evident since day one.
Fernandez thought about trying his line, plays it off instead to Jaymes Sancho.
Oh, Lordy. His excitement, it hasn't leveled out.
Isaac's passion for soccer goes back to his early years. It's evolved into something he can share with others.
Me and him just hit it off talking. We found out we both like Manchester United and Ronaldo. And it was just, maybe we'll have to get together and watch a game.
Good taco.
Any game that they put on TV, we come over and watch.
Weekends are for the fellas, where Jacobs lets loose with his neighbors Daniel Ortega and his son JP.
Besides me and my son, me and him are the only ones that talk about soccer. And so when we met him, now we had somebody else who knows way more than us. You know, I couldn't imagine not doing this all the time.
It's very good. Ooh, that shot.
Oh, hell yeah, go.
Daniel comes over, his son JP comes over. Isaac's able to talk to them and relate to them entirely outside of his condition or what his deficits are.
These moments are outlets for Isaac as he lives with a rare disability. Lesch-9 syndrome impacts about 1 in 380,000 people.
Isaac was born premature. So with that, we anticipated some developmental delays because he was 11 weeks early. After he was, 2, 3, and we still were not hitting the markers that we deemed necessary, his pediatrician referred us over to a neurologist. And at that point, a lot of the Lesch-9 patients are commonly misdiagnosed with cerebral palsy. It didn't fit what Isaac's behaviors were. It didn't describe my son. He did testing, and that's when they came back with the Lesch-9 diagnosis. And Isaac was almost 5 at that point. Sometimes you have to push. If what they're saying doesn't fit the bill, you're not gonna get that square peg to go in that round hole. And I needed to know what I was battling, no matter how big or small the issue was.
That diagnosis comes with its share of challenges. Challenges his mom, Benet, faces primarily alone.
One of the key differences is the self-injurious behaviors. And that is what really pushes parents to move beyond the cerebral palsy diagnosis that a lot of us receive. Our biggest contention right now is just to get awareness out about Lesch-9 syndrome. A lot of people do not hear about it.
Soccer and the sports community gives them a break from the struggles. Isaac has been embraced by Austin FC, helping him fulfill lifelong dreams.
They're not just seeing the wheelchair, they're not just seeing the disease. None of that matters in that moment. They're all just fans in the stands, cheering on Austin FC and hoping that we pull off a W at the end. After we got to see some of the players get some of the autographs, they took us out on the field. I told my neighbor, I was like, if we go on this field, I'm taking him out of this wheelchair. I don't care what we're doing, I'm taking him out of this wheelchair.
You can do this.
Yeah! And just watch it happen. So, yes, I'm gonna cry.
game?
Mm-hmm.
I love it so much.
Times like these will stay with them as Isaac looks forward, optimistic with what's to come.
Now, if you or anyone you know needs help navigating LNS, there is a support group. Just follow Love Never Sinks on Instagram. The nonprofit helps connect families hoping to find a cure. To make a donation, go to the address on your screen. Thanks for checking us out here on Beyond the Sport. I am Travis Raychek. Now, most of us, unfortunately, have been impacted or know someone who's been impacted by cancer. Over the years, spreading awareness has become a part of sports, and for some, that can be a release. Our Victor Jaymes spoke with a cancer survivor whose journey helped her on the hardwood.
How do you define the word fight now, as you know, after your experiences and being an adult now?
Never giving up, no matter what. No matter what obstacles come your way, the excuses. Basketball means a ton. I do feel like because of my past experience, I leaned on basketball to make it through battling and fighting.
Finding beauty in the everyday. It's something most of us struggle with. But there are times when life gives you a chance to stop and smell the roses.
5, good JB!
Jerica Jenkins learned this long before becoming an assistant women's basketball coach at Texas State.
Oh, good grab, Presley!
Jenkins was just 14 when she was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And they told my mom first, and then the doctor came in the room and told me. I didn't really understand, but before I left the hospital, it did hit me. And I didn't cry until I got home with my mom. I think I truly leaned on my parents. I'm an only child, so I leaned on my parents a lot. And then I was lucky to have a good group of friends. My dad used to always ask me if I had a brush when I was bald. That kept my spirits uplifted. Yeah, he would always make jokes.
With the support system in place, she began her fight, doing rounds of chemo, some days not having enough strength to get out of bed.
I feel like I was always at the hospital. They were always drawing blood. They would also draw blood through my portacath. After chemo, I did do 3 weeks straight of radiation. So I went Monday through Friday and getting radiation to 2 spots in my chest. And I would go before school and then leave radiation to go to practice. And I don't even know how I was doing that. To me, it was normal. I know it may sound weird to say that was normal, like going through chemotherapy was normal, but for me, that was all I knew. Like, that was my life. I didn't feel like I was living a different life than anybody else, but still recognizing that going through something that none of my friends has been through, like, I really didn't have too many people to talk to about it.
That couldn't keep her from the court.
Next one. That kept me going like basketball did, so I knew I had to have some kind of physical activity, right? So I just wouldn't be laying in the bed all day for weeks, sulking, really.
Hoops became a safe haven, where Jerica found peace amid a life-changing battle.
Whenever I got inside the lines, I felt free. I felt like I was comfortable. Timing! Just being on the floor, I really wouldn't think about it too much. Like, everybody that I was hooping with at the gym, they wouldn't talk about it. I just played basketball as much as I could when I felt good, like when I knew I can get up and walk or get up and actually leave the house and go to the gym.
After months of treatment, Jenkins was cancer-free, eventually becoming a starter at Lancaster High in the Dallas area, and went on to shine at Hampton University.
My sophomore, my junior, and my senior season, we were able to win the conference championship. I went to the NCAA tournament 3 times, and I got to play a lot of good teams and have a lot of good experience.
Now, Jerica is entering her 2nd season as a Bobcats assistant.
If you feel her go behind you, she disappears, probably because she's trying to come get it on the right side.
Crediting her journey for added perspective, something she can pass on to her players.
Yeah, sometimes you see when kids are having an off day, or maybe even an off week, and I'll pull them to the side and just talk to them about just fighting through whatever you're going through. You know, like when you're inside the lines, literally, like when you're inside the lines, you should forget about everything else, like stay in the moment.
Those experiences molded the woman she's become, with the ability to live in the moment and to see the value in any situation.
I do feel like God put me through that on purpose. Not that, you know, he needs to put everybody through something like that, but I do feel like the way I had to fight and just the different lessons that I learned and how I'm really just a free spirit. Like I just try to have fun all the time, make people laugh, and try not to be upset for too long, and just enjoy life. You have to go through things. Like it has to rain for flowers to grow. So like you may be in a dark place, but you'll come out of it.